Aloha, and welcome to Trust and Verify, the only show where the host continually tells you, don't trust me, verify it. As you can see in that little window between Boogie and I, we are joined tonight by some weird guy we picked up on the street. His name is Chris Mack, but we'll get to him in a minute. Before we can go that far, I got to introduce my friend, my partner, my co-host, Boogie Bumper. Boogie, how's it going, brother?
Thanks for having me once again. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing it out. If you do, by the way, just a quick reminder, if you can't stay up late, if you don't want to listen, if you don't want to watch us rant right now, you can always download the podcast at iTunes or Podbean and listen at your leisure. Threes, they say three's a company, James. So three's company, but what is it? Two's company and three's a crowd. So we've got a crowd. So Chris, how you going, mate? Welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us.
Hey. Great to see you guys, man. This is awesome. I just got back from D.C. and couldn't think of a better thing than on Sunday night be with Boogie and James R. Boogie, we're glad to have you on Pirate Radio Friday night, by the way, too. You and Joey both added a great element to the show, and it's always good to see you guys. You guys mean a lot to me. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the work y'all do, and this show's fantastic. Looking forward to being with you tonight.
Well, don't be praising us too soon, because my goal tonight is to have all of the Republicans and Trump supporters in the audience slitting their wrists by the time we're finished tonight. So, but can we kick it off? Can we kick it off, James? Since Chris was at CPAC, I thought we'd get his thoughts on a couple of things. Got this from Vox, James. The 7 most bizarre moments from Trump's long-winded CPAC rant. The speech lasted for more than 2 hours, James. That's the new code for speech, by the way, long-winded rant when Donald Trump does it. The off-script expletive dropping Donald Trump that we first met on the campaign trail in 2015 is back in front of the cameras. I guess there must be an election coming up, right? Great investigative stuff from Vox. There must be an election on the way somewhere. Trump took the stage at the Conservative Political Action Committee CPAC conference this weekend for a long-winded and very quotable rant against the many perceived villains weighing down his presidency, because it's just a perception. It's just all in his imagination, right? I mean, it's a Donald Trump conspiracy theory. Nobody's trying to bring down the Trump administration. Don't be silly, Donald. It's all your perception, my friend. Namely, the media, federal investigators, and quote-unquote, James, socialist challengers in the 2020 election. Like, we have to put it in inverted commas because, they're not real socialists. They're not really socialists. There's Reds under the bed. He started off the event by bear-hugging a staff with the American flag, setting the tone for the rest of his appearance, James. Reportedly the longest speech of his presidency. So what are these things that were shocking moments from this long-winded rant, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. Trump delighted in going off script and cussing a bunch too. Reverting back to his roots on the campaign trail, where speeches would often unravel into long-winding rants of word association, Trump proudly made clear he wasn't following some pre-written speech on a teleprompter. If we don't go off script, our country is in big trouble, folks. He called the investigations into him bullshit. He said John Podesta, the former chairman of Hillary Clinton's campaign, quote, hasn't gotten over getting his ass kicked, and he mocked the Green New Deal, whatever the hell they call it. After a while, it was hard to count the number of times he said, damn. Trump mocked Jeff Sessions, James, Southern drawl, and other white-haired politicians. I guess he hates the Southerners too. Crowd size still matters, apparently, James. He talked about the crowd size, which you shouldn't do. Trump thinks anyone who...
my crowd size?
Check my crowd size, baby. Trump thinks anyone who disagrees with him is un-American. Trump announced plans to issue an executive order for free speech on college campuses. We can't have that. What a madman! What a madman wanting free speech on college campuses. Can you believe this wacko, James? This fascist? I mean, all fascists love free speech, don't they? Don't they?
Yep.
I think
it was Nazi Carter.
Hitler was a big free speech guy. Loved free speech. Mussolini, big free speech guy. They all loved free speech, James. And the last one here, the section on Trump's Christmas trip to Iraq was straight up weird. There you go. It was weird. Let's go to Iraq, he said. He's a weird man. Chris, you were there. Were you shocked? Were you bemused? Was your intelligence befouled by the long-winded rantings of Donald Trump?
No, actually, my hand was about to break off because I had to hold the damn cell phone for 2.5 hours and holding it up to film the thing. But other than that, no, Boogie. You know, it's funny you mentioned the rant, the cursing. They mentioned the cursing. It was funny the minute he said bullshit. I said to myself, I said, you know, I said of everything this speech includes and will have, that's going to be the one thing they're going to pick up on. I swear, and just as sure as night as day, the Fox News headline last night at 11:30 was President Trump calls Bob Mueller pro bullshit. Now, that's not all the thing he talked about. And it was a long speech. I have to tell you, it's one of the longest I've ever heard of him since I've seen him. And being in there live, I mean, it was pretty tough. I mean, but it was great stuff. I mean, if it was wall-to-wall vintage Donald Trump. And the crowd reacted to it. There was a lot of energy. And look, what I love about our president is that he is not afraid to get down in the ditch and deal with these people on their level and not blink an eye about it. And, you know, he did make a comment, which is probably not in that article. He talked about at the very first the sarcasm and jokes. He said, I can't even be funny. He said, a lot of things I say is said in tongue in cheek and jokes. And he said it gets taken and written as policy. And this is how Donald Trump is. And that's what happened. It is. I've always known this from him about the beginning. The man's got a sense of humor. And I've got the same kind of sense of humor he does. It's dry, it's witty, it's sarcastic, and he don't mean sometimes a lot of the things he says, and people will be writing a mile a minute, and he'll say something sarcastic or witty, and before you know it, he'll get painted as that fascist, as that racist, as that bigot, as that homophobe, as that whatever, and all of the time he's just sort of joking around with us. He's just joking around with the American people, having a good time. He can't do that. But that's the press, and that's the way they are. Look, I have to tell you, it was well worth my trip up there. I loved it. It was that moment. James has got it right now, him hugging the flag. When he walked out and hugged that flag, I mean, look, if you're not American, if you're an American and you didn't feel something by that, I don't think you're an American. I think you don't have any soul, because that's what he's doing. He's loving the country right now. And but the speech was great to me. I knew that he was going to get slammed. I mean, I knew a lot of the things he was saying. He was going to get barbecued in the press, and they didn't disappoint. That's for damn sure.
When does he not get slammed, James? When does he not get slammed? Like, what's different at this point?
That's true. That's true.
Let me start off with some advice for Chris Mack and all you citizen journalists out there. This is a cell phone holder directly designed for people like us. $15, seriously. See, your little cell phone goes in there, you mount your little lights and your microphone on it, and then it actually will mount to a tripod too. So you don't have to sit there and get a hand cramp because the president's talking for 2 hours. But
next time I will remember that.
Advertising. I don't make any money from this, but maybe I should start. But listen, the truth is on the president, right, is Friday night we covered it on pirate radio, and the president must have watched us because I said, fuck you, Lamar. And what talked about was the fact that this is how Americans talk. Go to any job site anywhere in America. Go to carpenters, go to the plumbers, go to the electricians unions, go to any hotel back room, go to the laundry department, go to the maid's office, go to the kitchen. And Americans are saying, fuck those motherfuckers. All they care about is stealing my money. That is not going to be a detriment to the president to talk like an American talks. In fact, it's exactly highlighting fuck PC politics. PC politics is what killed this country. It's what got us into this mess, and he's highlighting it in a 2-hour speech, which I didn't even realize it was 2 hours, similar to a lot of the shows that we talk about all the time, is that, we're on show and we go, oh man, we're an hour and a half in. We got to get out of here. Right. So, I see it all the time. And when you're in a good speech like that and when you're watching the president of the United States lambast all of our critics, because let's face it, the reason we voted for Donald Trump is because he said he was going to do things that we wanted to get done. Then once he got elected, he's actually doing the things we wanted to get done. It's our agenda. It has nothing to do with what the president wants to do. He's literally fighting daily for our agenda, using our voice, and the American people are going to respond and love it.
James, Chris was talking about he would get hammered in the press, and of course he is, and that's not uncommon. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, but when I say here on Trust and Verify, there's one guy who's pretty prominent in the Democratic press and Democratic circles who we hold with, some high respect. We recognize his intelligence and his ability to, he's not beyond giving praise when needed for the president. And we suspect it's because he's playing a bigger game. And let me try to explain what I'm getting at here. This has been played a little bit over the weekend. This is Van Jones, and straight away I can see people turning off the stream. Fucking Van Jones, you playing Van Jones, that communist? Yes, I'm fully aware. I'm fully aware of who Van Jones is. You'll remember I first came to know him, as many of you did, when he was the green energy czar for Barack Obama. Do you remember that? The green energy czar? And he was a revolutionary communist in his younger days as well.
We're having a little bit of tech issues tonight, guys. Just so that you know, while Boogie is frozen, he is not taking a vacation again. We actually had to, we couldn't get the stream to go live tonight. We had to break down, change everything we do, and we're going straight to Periscope because we are having technical issues tonight, and I don't know why. So when Boogie comes back, we will definitely get into more about what Van Jones is talking about. The reason that we want to talk about it is because Van Jones, as you can see, conservative movement in this country is now the leader on this issue of criminal justice reform. And I can see, since Boogie is now moving again and he's not a frozen shadow, I'm going to give it right back to Boogie.
I'm here. Let's play Van, and let me explain what I'm getting at here.
The conservative movement in this country, unfortunately, from my point of view, is now the leader on this issue of reform, in that you look at Mississippi, a rock-ribbed, totally conservative former jailer is the governor there, Governor Bryant. Governor Bryant has cut the prison population and crime at the same time. Deal in Georgia cut the prison population and crime at the same time. Rick Perry cut the prison population, prison expenditures, and crime at the same time. Ohio, South Carolina, what you're seeing now are Republican governors being tough on the dollars, tough on crime, and shrinking prison populations, and showing the rest of the country that it can be done. Now, my problem is I now have a conservative movement that, for libertarian reasons, for Christian conservative reasons, and for fiscally conservative reasons, is actually doing a great job on what should be my issue.
Now, see, people are probably missing the bigger thing of what he's saying there. He's saying my problem is, it's not that he just hates conservatives. His problem is it's his job and people like him to sell democratic solutions to problems, not Republican solutions. So he's saying my problem is now, how the hell am I supposed to go back to my base, my team, my party, and say that we've got the right ideas, we're doing the right thing, when it's obvious that you guys are actually doing the right thing? There's another thing too. Now, Jones may come from, the hard left of the Democrat Party, but he would know as well as anyone that the Democrats' hopes of, taking back power en masse do not rely on the hard left, because the hard left is unelectable for large swaths of the American population, right? Here's an opinion piece from the New York Times. A dose of moderation would help Democrats. Haven't we been talking about this every single damn week, James, about the civil war inside the Democratic Party and why the moderates need to keep the hard left at bay? They can appeal to moderate voters without betraying progressive values. The energy in the 2020 Democratic campaign has been coming from the left. Candidates are pushing Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, a wealth tax, and other ideas that are more progressive than anything a recent Democratic nominee has favoured. Much of this shift, which has been focused on economic policy, is smart. Republicans may cry socialism and affluent centrists may not love it, but the American public leans decidedly left on economics. I disagree. A clear majority favours high taxes on the rich, a minimum wage, and expanded government health insurance. After 4 decades of slow-growing living standards, people want change. But here's the rub. And yet there are also risks in the Democrats' move to the left. Risks that are sillier criticisms of the party's new progressivism, sometimes obscure. So far, the 2020 candidates have been mostly competing with one another to see who can come off as the most boldly and purely liberal. Bernie Sanders talks about completing his revolution. Kamala Harris has spoken about the joy that marijuana brings. Sanders, Harris, and Gillibrand have all talked about eliminating private health insurance and so on. Ideological purity doesn't tend to play well in general elections. What have we been saying? What have we been saying? It's about being able to appeal to a broad spectrum of voters. This is why Donald Trump flipped the states known as the Blue Wall, which have been Democrat for the last 3 decades. Every modern president has found ways to appeal to Americans' fondness for consensus, even if that fondness is based partly on a naive view of politics, and even if the candidate's appeals have sometimes been more stylistic than substantive. Now, look at this little poll here. This is a Gallup poll. How Americans describe their own political views: 26% liberal, 35% conservative, 35% moderate, right? So in Democrat circles, 13% of Democrats would call themselves conservatives, right? And 34% moderates. If you look at the breakdown for the Republicans, that moderate number is a lot smaller at 22%. And only 4% of Republicans would say that they are liberal. 73% of Republicans consider themselves conservative. And if you look at the independents here, 22% liberal, 28% conservative, 45% moderate for the independents. The independents are key, right? They're key in winning new votes. Here's a little video I wanted to show you just to back this up, what we're saying here. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be very difficult for the hard left to win the hearts and minds of all of those people we just highlighted in that little poll. People like Van Jones are very good at positioning themselves as the quote-unquote rational, reasonable heart of the Democrat Party, right? Even though his own base political instincts might not be that. This is why we respect him on this show, because he's smart enough to understand how to position himself to be a contrast to the hard left that he might agree with on like 9 out of 10 surveys. So check this out. This was on Meet the Press today, I think, or yesterday. A little poll that they did about what Democrat voters want in their upcoming presidential election. This should shock you. And then we'll get some thoughts.
Welcome back, Data Download Time. So what characteristics are Democrats looking for or not looking for in a presidential candidate? Well, the answer may come in our new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll. This month, we asked voters about certain types of characteristics that would make them enthusiastic or comfortable, and what characteristics would make them have some reservations or uncomfortable about a certain candidate. We're going to do other characteristics next month and throughout this election season. Across the board, Democrats were enthusiastic or comfortable with a candidate who is African American, a woman candidate, a white male, someone gay or lesbian. On the flip side, only 33% of Democrats were comfortable with someone over the age of 7.
Remember, we've spoken before that the Democrats have an age problem. Remember, with Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Bernie Sanders, new young voting millennial Democrats don't want crusty old people. But one more stat for you.
75 as their nominee, and only 45% were comfortable with a potential socialist president.
I like how he says.
Think of a few Democrats.
I like how he says only 45% were comfortable with a socialist president. Only 45%, you say? Only half of them? Hang on, one more.
For president, or at least thinking about it.
One more.
Fit one or both of those descriptions. And by the way, while the margins vary, Democrats are in line with voters overall on those questions. So where are the splits between Democrats and everyone else? Well, 67% of Democrats would be enthusiastic or comfortable with a Muslim president, compared to just 49% overall. Only 37% of Democrats, though, are okay with an evangelical Christian.
67% of Democrats polled. Okay, so let's be clear on that. Democrats polled would be enthusiastic about a Muslim president. 37%, by contrast, would be enthusiastic by an evangelical Christian. So nearly double the amount. There are double the amount of Democrats in this poll that would prefer a Muslim president over an evangelical president. How far do you think it's shifted? 45% of Democrats would be comfortable with a socialist. If you can add the numbers together, they are more comfortable with a socialist Muslim president than they are an evangelical Christian with a business background. So it's people like Van Jones who can see the writing on the wall here, right? And they think to themselves, we need to still, you still can't win the presidency unless you get a big chunk of the middle class, right? Van Jones knows this. The guy who wrote that opinion piece for the New York Times knows this. And what do you think? Like, that's why I say, I tip my hat respectfully to people like Van Jones, because they know what they're doing and they're not stupid.
Yeah, let's kick this to Chris first, because I think he's going to have the most interesting take here, because that's a big number. But I want to answer the chat room's question real quick, because they weren't sure who this was. That is that sleepy-eyed son of a bitch, Chuck Todd, and this is a poll from NBC Wall Street Journal. So take that for what it is.
Correct.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I find it the age thing is interesting, because that's going to eliminate Biden and Bernie right there. And I've always felt like there is going to be a civil war in the party, guys. But, I've always looked at Biden, and I know a lot of people, it's Crazy Joe and all this crazy stuff he said. But look, he's got that appeal to the nation. He's got some appeal in the middle. Where Bernie is strictly left, Bernie would get clobbered in a primary with Joe Biden. Biden would beat him 80-20 because of the Democratic base right now. But if you take them two out, you've got nothing left, Boogie, than what you said a while ago. And you said basically the large swaths of the population wouldn't vote for a socialist left country. I believe that to a degree. But again, I never would dream that Ocasio-Cortez would be sitting in Congress either, as crazy a loon as she is, even though she was in a stacked district. So never say never. And guys, I have to tell you this. I was thinking about this as I was looking at these polls. I remember back in 2007, it was right before Barack Obama got elected for the first time. I had never heard of Barack Obama, honestly. I wasn't involved in this like we are now. I mean, I was sort of a periphery kind of person. I was following politics, but I really didn't know that much about the individual candidates. And I had a friend of mine, we were having lunch one day, and they told me that day, they said, watch out for Barack Obama. Watch this. This guy is dangerous. He's pulling a lot of pull from the left. He's pulling a lot of pull from the center. He's black. He's African-American, and he's going to be charismatic. He's going to come on the scene. And he said if the Republicans put some old white guy up against him, they're going to get clobbered. And what did we go out and do? We put up John McCain, an old white guy. And I think the Democrats are not going to do that. They're going to learn that lesson in 2020. They're not going to put an old white guy up as their primary candidate, Boogie. I'm sorry.
Holy shit!
It's late. It's late. I'm sorry. It's late.
Viva la revolution! Viva la revolution!
I don't see the Democrats putting Bernie or Joe, either one, up. They're going to have a struggle in the primary. But I will say this, your wild card in this, Kamala Harris. She's black, she's female, and even if she gets blowed out in the primaries, it would not shock me that she doesn't find her way on that vice presidential ticket because of identity politics. That's what I believe.
That would match pretty good, because my prediction is Michelle Obama is going to come out of the woodwork here, and so I could see a Michelle Kamala ticket.
Yeah.
But I love you said even if she gets blowed out, that's freaking hilarious considering Kamala's rise to stardom started with a good blowjob. So listen, of all the things that we really were talking about here is we were talking about Van Jones, and what the point is that I want you guys to understand Van Jones is literally like the liberal version of Boogie Bumper and James. Okay, we've been telling you. We're showing you the warning signs of what the left is doing. That's what Van Jones is doing.
He's just far more successful. That's all. That's the only difference.
I'm not trying to compare myself to the guy
I know.
his and all that. What I'm saying is that what the alarm bells he's ringing is he's never. In other words, what I'm saying is he's not on our side. Clearly, we know this, right? But his appearance at CPAC was that Matt Schlapp's not on our side either. Okay, Matt Schlapp is about politics. Okay. And so if you look at what they're doing, they're highlighting for the left what they have to do better, right? They're trying to steal our issues everywhere. Like in each little time, like you can look at everything they're doing language wise. Nancy Pelosi saying, make America great again. Nancy Pelosi talking about how we need to drain the swamp. What's her name? Pocahontas is out there talking about how we need to do better with how we treat the people in college, things like this, right? They're trying to steal our ideas, make it sound like they're theirs just to win. That's what Van Jones is doing. Van Jones is the guy that's telling them how they're going to win. He's playing that moderate role because literally he knows better than what he's doing. That's why Boogie and I get him wrong sometimes, because we know he's smart. So we give him credit for where he's going to go. And sometimes we get him wrong because he's found a different path to achieve his goal.
Yeah, and he praised Donald Trump after the first State of the Union address that Donald Trump did. Not State of the Union. Yeah, it was the State of the Union, sorry. Yeah. And remember, he said, if Donald Trump can do that again, he's going to win in 2020. You remember when Donald Trump signed the Prison Reform Act, he said, we have to praise the Donald Trump administration for bringing both sides of the political spectrum together and getting this done because we have wanted this for a long, long time. See, he's one of the few who are smart enough to understand that if you've been advocating for a certain policy or a certain solution for a long time and even your opponent does it, you can't then come out and say that it's the wrong thing to do. And many of his comrades don't understand that because that's when they get into Trump derangement syndrome and they lose all credibility with their own support base. And even now he's being criticized, right?
I think that the point you just made is exactly why we got him wrong when you and I predicted after the State of the Union this time around that he would take the moderate position is because of exactly what you just highlighted. Yeah. The first time around, he said, if Trump does this shit again, we're fucked. So now Trump came out, kicked ass, and he's like, oh, fuck, we're fucked, so I better try to do something else. And so that's, I think I got that wrong, is because he realized that he was right. And so now what do I do to shift the narrative? How do I change Donald Trump having such an excellent night?
So in the bizarro world, James, where Van Jones is being criticized for lending his round of applause to Donald Trump in the name of prison reform, Rand Paul is being criticized for pulling his support away. This happened over the weekend. Did you see this? Republican Senator Rand Paul says he will vote for measure blocking Trump's emergency declaration, paving way for a new passage. Senator Rand Paul is throwing his support behind a resolution that would block President Trump's declaration of a national emergency to build his long-promised US-Mexico border wall, defying a warning from the president and putting the measure on track to passage. Paul said in a speech Saturday at the Southern Kentucky Lincoln Day dinner that he can't vote to give extra constitutional powers to the president. I can't vote to give the president the power to spend money that hasn't been appropriated by Congress, Paul said, according to the newspaper. We may want more money for border security, but Congress didn't authorize it. If we take away those checks and balances, it's a dangerous thing. Paul joins fellow Republican Senators Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Tom Tillis. Isn't that a happy little, the three amigos, in opposing Trump's move? A reflection of some resistance within the GOP to what lawmakers see as executive overreach and a test of the constitutional separation of powers. The thing I find interesting about this is Rand Paul has put his neck on the line for Donald Trump on other issues before when nobody else would. He's called for people to support Donald Trump in regards to pulling the troops out of Syria and Afghanistan, you'll remember. And he that bill was overwhelmingly against him. And the thing is with this, Donald Trump can still veto it. So it's effectively a grandstanding move at that point. Like, it's not going to stop him, right? Donald Trump can still veto this bill that they put through. So I'm just curious. I want to get your thoughts. Why is he doing this?
Let me tee this one up first, and I'm going to say this. This is 100% perfectly predictable for Rand Paul to have done this. Anyone that didn't understand Rand Paul would do this doesn't understand Rand Paul. Rand Paul has said the same thing when Obama was president. He said the same thing his entire career, is that this is not about building the wall. This is about the funding of the wall. And although his language was poorly chosen, that he was giving extra power to the president, they already did that with the Emergency Declaration Act. This is a problem with Congress. So this is perfectly predictable for me that Rand Paul would do this and that Rand Paul would take the position that he's taken, and for exactly the same reasons, right? This is where he can take a principled stand for him on what he's always been consistently true to. And it's not going to affect the president's agenda in any way, number one. Number two is it's going to actually help us in the long run because he's drawing attention. Congress needs to fix this shit. It's Congress's fault that President Obama was able to spend any money he wanted at any time. All we have to do is let's look at HUD. Where'd all the money from HUD go? It went to the ACA. Where did all the money from the military go? Oh, they stole it and put it in the ACA. Where did all the money go from Medicare? Oh, they stole it and put it in the ACA. So once again, this is highlighting how presidential power to spend any money allocated to the executive branch this problem has existed for a very long time, and Congress does need to fix it. But like I said, this isn't going to affect the president's agenda in any way. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I'm with you, James. And, I don't surprise me with Rand Paul. I'll be honest with you, I'm surprised there's not more Republicans that have jumped on this bandwagon. Honestly, I mean, for there just to be 4 is sort of shocking. I would argue with Rand. He thinks he's a constitutional guy. Look, Congress has the power of the purse, but they do not have the right to declare national emergency. That is in the power of the presidency. And, it's sort of like, if Trump was to cure cancer, there would be Democrats and Republicans in line to get cancer tomorrow and say it's a great disease to get. They'd be out looking for their cancer, give me cancer sticks or give me cancer boxes and treatments if Trump cured it. So this is one of those things that it was okay for Barack Obama to have a ton of national emergencies for everything from rat poison to Michelle Obama's mirror image reflected back she was a guy. I mean, my God. I mean, there was all sorts of crap that he filed national emergencies for. But it's Donald Trump. And Rand, I don't know what Rand's end game is. He's not going to run for president again. He's not going to – I live down here, guys. He's my neighbor. Rand Paul is less than 100 miles from me where I live. And I've met him one time in person. It's been many, many years ago. And it was actually at the start of his political career that he's in now. And he don't strike me as a grandstander, but he does like to stick his nose in things that he don't need to stick him in. And that's sort of what I'm getting this here. This is a no-win for him. He's not going to win this. All this is going to make him do is look petty to his people. And I can tell you, the people of Kentucky, if it comes down to Rand Paul and Donald Trump, Rand Paul is screwed because people hate him around here. I mean, we just don't like him around here. And they love Donald Trump. This is Trump country where we're at. And, you go up against the president, it's not going to work. But I will argue with him. If he wants to make it a constitutional matter, then he's wrong. He's already wrong on the basis of his theory that it's the Congress. It's the president's job. It's the president's prerogative to declare this, and he's on solid legal ground. And as Boogie said, all Trump's going to do is veto it. It's going to wind up in the Supreme Court. And these 16 states are on very, very weak footing. They're not going to get anywhere. If they get a court that does right by the Constitution, this is going to stand. And again, I know the arguments are, well, he didn't have to file one. He's got the military down there building the wall. I believe this national emergency goes beyond just the wall. This national emergency is trying to establish the fact we have got an emergency of illegal immigration in this country. And I think to state it like that and to state the reasons we've got it is good for the American people, because a lot of us out here that don't pay attention to politics, and I know there's some that don't, I think they need to hear it. And that's just my take. And I think that that's more important than us just arguing about whether the wall is necessary or not. Because, look, we all know that's coming, but the wall is not going to be a fix-all. We need other measures. And I think this opens the door for President Trump to do it. And I'll say one quick thing, and I'll hush. I do believe the only thing I don't like about this national emergency is it don't go far enough. Trump should shut this damn border down for 60 days or 90 days or however long it takes, and basically force Congress. James, you made a great point. Congress has got to do their damn job. Force them to do it. Shut the border down and say, you know something, we're going to fix this problem, or we're not going to open our border till we do. And that's how you do it. And I mean, I know that maybe, some difference of opinion there, but that's how I would handle it if it was me. I just think he's got to make the tough call to do it and give the military time to do what they got to do and not have to worry about the immigrants coming across, the illegals coming across while they're trying to do this. And I'm sure our buddy Mike at Border Narcotics would agree with this. It would give the agents a little bit of a break, because the border being closed, again, you could do an lot of things to enforce the border issue if you got a closed border, and they do right now. But that's just Chris's take on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Democrats would be cheering if Donald Trump shut down the border, because with hundreds of millions of dollars per day then coming out of the American economy, you can start to wedge Donald Trump against the business lobbies. And, some of Donald Trump's biggest supporters are the business lobbies. So I think they would welcome that, because then they'd be able to see he's destroying the economy. He doesn't care about jobs, blah, blah, blah. People are going broke and that kind of thing. I'm not sure that would be the right way to go, just in a political sense. Let me interject this quick thought.
They were saying the same things about the tariffs, though, and look what happened. China's on their freaking knees begging us to stop killing them in the tariff war. That may not be the same thing that happens here, but I will tell you, I think that even if it's for a short time, at least it would be symbolic. Maybe if nothing else, just close the thing down for a month and then open it back up. But at least send a message that I'm in control of this. I think that's what I'm frustrated with, guys. The things we know to be right, like we know he's got the right to declare this national emergency. It's like every time he does something that is constitutionally right, he has to fight for his life to see it through. And he shouldn't have to be fighting for his life to do something that's constitutional. You know something? This should be just a simple it's like a business transaction to me. It's constitutional for him to do it. Get it done. And then there shouldn't be all this blowback. But there always is with him. And it's not his fault. I'm not saying it's his fault. But the people around him that hate him, that's what they do. And it's a tragedy where we're at in this country right now.
I think we should get Chris staying up late more often, because he gets a little more angry at this time of day, doesn't he, James? Have you noticed? That's a little bit more passionate. James,
this is on cue for that, Boogie Bar.
James, you could be the deal breaker. He's muted. James, you muted yourself, brother. You're muted. You're muted.
I had a helicopter flying over, so I muted it, and now I forgot to unmute it. See, I'm a professional, I tell you. Listen, I totally agree with both of you in this way. If you seal the border, it will fuck a lot of things up, but it may be necessary. You got to understand that exactly what we're advocating for, like exactly. If we seal the border, it will affect jobs in Michigan, because the auto parts needed from Mexico in order for the people in Michigan to put them into further auto parts that then create cars in Michigan. So you got that problem. You got people that, will get laid off in California because of vegetable markets, things like that. There's a lot of things like that will affect. So we like Boogie said, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars a day, and that's the problem ultimately with NAFTA, and why we renegotiated NAFTA is that that's why we have the new joint Mexican and Canada agreement, the USMCA, because we needed to fix that problem. We needed to make that problem less of an issue. So it's a really fine balancing act. Ultimately, we have to find a way to force Congress to do its job. That's the ultimate goal here. Is we have to find a way to force them to fix the immigration problem. And that may be the only way to do it, is to seal the damn border and literally force Congress. Fix the fucking immigration, or we're just going to fuck everything up. I mean, sometimes that's what it takes, right?
Well, I've got an article here for you, James, which I thought was fun, which we'll tack on to the back of this conversation. If Trump loses, we know what to expect. Anger, fear, and disruption. Isn't that pretty much what we got after he won? Like, I'm failing to see what the difference is here. I guess they're trying to say that the anger, fear, and disruption will come from you instead of the Democrats on this occasion. I'll just scan down here to this part of the article. Even after the election, guys, Trump refused to accept that he had lost the popular vote, still claiming election fraud. He established a presidential commission to find it. When the commission came back empty-handed, he abruptly dissolved it, saying wrongly that it uncovered substantial evidence of voter fraud. No such evidence emerged. For Trump, losing is the deepest form of humiliation, and humiliation is intolerable. Which is interesting to me, because aren't these are the people that are always saying, Donald Trump is such an embarrassment. He's embarrassing me on the world stage. He's humiliating the United States. Isn't this like a daily prose from these guys? Every time he has lost a legislative or legal battle during his presidency, he has blamed the other side and has lashed back, shutting the government, declaring a national emergency, whipping up his followers against recalcitrant judges, James, Democrats, the media, or whomever he holds responsible. Imagine it's November 2020 and Trump has lost the election. He charges voter fraud, claiming that the deep state organized tens of millions of illegal immigrants to vote against him, and he says he has an obligation to not step down. Only this time, he's already the president, with all the powers a president commands. In years past, Americans have trusted our system of government enough that we abide by its outcomes even though we disagree with them. Really? What about 2 years ago? What about 2 years ago?
Past 2 years.
Exactly. Only once in our history in 1861 did enough of us distrust the system so much we succumb to civil war. Typically, when an election is over, the peaceful transition of power reminds the public that our allegiance is not toward a particular person, but to our system of government. This is just one article that I could have chosen from maybe a dozen that I picked up over the last few days, all running a similar subtext, right? all of them have a similar current of thought bubbling under the surface. And it's somewhere between tilling the soil, chumming the waters for there is a legitimate case to remove the president, and we who want the president removed are the ones who are protecting the government. Right? We are the patriots. We're protecting the system. This guy is disruptive of the system. He's destroying the system. If you're pro Donald Trump, you are anti-American, right? These are these kinds of subtle little tricks that are starting to flow into commentary. I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but it's starting to ramp up now. Just as the Democrats, we'll get into a couple of videos, are about to subpoena 60 people to go in front of investigations, just as they're using places like the Southern District of New York to act as like a kind of, we'll just say like a second special counsel, effectively. Constantly, they're now investigating all of Donald Trump's businesses. They're going to subpoena all of his financial records, but we'll get into that. But can you see the way that this is starting to get twisted? You know, they're going to make the patriots the terrorists, right?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, what I was going to say is it's interesting you mentioned the article that caught my attention was the Civil War part. Look, we bannered this back Friday night on Pirate Radio, and what was the thing that Lamar Alexander was on the floor of the Senate predicting? That if President Trump declared this national emergency, it was going to start what? A civil war in the Republican Party. And my daggum great co-host James R. brought a great point up. I love what he said. He said, such a moron, because if you don't fix this damn border problem, we're going to have more than a civil war, guys, between the Republican Party and the elites. We're going to have a damn civil war in the country because the American people are piss poor tired of this stuff. We want to see our border secure. We want to stop seeing people get killed by illegal aliens. And look, it's dividing the nation. And the very people that are screaming against the wall and border, and again, Boogie, as you saying, predicting that we're going to have civil war if Trump don't leave office in 2020, what they don't realize, we're going to have it long before then, because the American public, the patriots in this nation, are not going to keep standing for their border not to be secured. And I guarantee you, these elites, I don't think they see that. I think that they want to predict these civil wars. They don't even know what that looks like. They don't understand what exactly that's going to look like. They don't want to deal with this out here in the real world. They don't, because we will win. And it's not we're calling for the subversion of any government. But if they think for a second we're going to take this line down, they're crazy. And if that's what they want, if they want a civil war, I say bring it on. Bring this crap on. Let's fight it. And I'm not saying so much bullets and bombs, but I'm talking about with ideas and ideology. If this is what they want, to split the party and split the nation in two, let's have at it. But I believe we're on the right side of this argument. I believe what we're talking about tonight, we're on the right side of this.
Absolutely. In fact, the article Boogie brought up earlier when we were talking about Van Jones and everything highlights this exact thing that you're talking about, is that the Civil War, let's look at the sleepy-eyed son of a bitch Chuck Todd's poll there, right? The Civil War is apparent in that poll. It's telling you what's going on in this country. We're already here. In fact, the only reason that we haven't gone to bullets yet is because of Donald Trump. Because the rest of us are awake. The people that support Donald Trump are awake. We know right now our country we're at the balance point. And if they take Donald Trump away from us, we're going to civil war. I mean, I think it's that cut and dry. I think it's everybody. I mean, I'm talking little old ladies, 80 years old, grabbing a fucking shotgun, saying, fuck it, let's go, boys. I mean, I'm telling you, this is what I see in the country. But that poll highlights that moderate number. If you add those moderate numbers up through all of the parties, you realize that's why we're going to win. That's why Donald Trump has won. What Boogie was highlighting earlier about always finding the moderate position in all of this and explaining to the American people, look, we are not these radical sumbitches that the left keeps trying to tell you we are. Okay? We're pro-Constitution. We are pro-freedom for everybody, including you crazy fucks on the left. That's like right. This is what Donald Trump has been able to do better than anyone. So that's why you and I created the Fuck You Lamar campaign, is because we don't like these son of bitches. We do not want these rhino fuckers trying to divide us and trying to hurt us just as bad as the left. We are about MAGA, and MAGA is the center of the country. MAGA is Democrats, Republicans, independents in that big ass swath of moderation. We're just willing to fight for it if we have to.
Yeah, James. Let's carry on then. Let's carry on and let's do a different kind of hammering. This is the hammering that is going to be abusive to your sensibilities out there at home. So I'm glad we've got three of us to join in. This should be fun.
Stop hammering.
A very special edition of the hammering, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start here. Justice Department preparing to announce end of Mueller's Russian probe report. An announcement that Special Counsel Robert Mueller is wrapping up the Russia probe may come in a matter of days, CNN reported Wednesday. And I hear a lot of people going, yes, fuck yes, woo, it's about time. It's about time. We're sick of this. But hold your celebrations, my comrades, because it might just get a hell of a lot worse. Let's get after it with Chris Cuomo.
We are at a critical point in Mueller's Russia investigation. That is the take of a man who understands how to investigate power. Carl Bernstein, always a pleasure.
Bring it out, old dusty Carl.
We seem to be coming near the point where we will get Mueller's report.
Yes.
That feels like a culmination.
Yes.
You say no.
No.
No, I think that it's more than a critical point in the Mueller investigation. It's a critical point in a cover-up that is unraveling.
A cover-up that is unraveling, James. That's the critical point here. What you'll find interesting about this, I'm only going to play like the first 90 seconds and then move on to the next clip. Carl Bernstein is actually literally explaining to everybody who's watching this show, which, to be fair, is about 24 people. But he is nonetheless explaining to that 24 people what exactly the plan is moving forward into 2020. Remember, if there is no Russian collusion, that's not necessarily going to matter in terms of strategy of removing Donald Trump for these people. Check this out.
And that cover-up is unraveling partly because of the fruits of Mueller's strategy, which was to farm out part of his case to the Southern District, to the U.S. Attorney's offices in various places, so that the...
Whoa, says James. What do you got?
Did you... That's a very big point that he just made, because what he just said is he violated the terms of his engagement, because she just said it was a strategy to farm out to other agencies the power of the special prosecutor. That's not the way all those regulations are written. So if that's true, that would put Mueller in a very bad spot, number one. Number two is that did Carl Bernstein forget that Deep Throat no longer exists and that we're in 2019 now? This is not freaking Nixon to talk about the way that he's decided that this is about the cover up. What fucking cover up? We haven't even found a fucking crime, and we've been looking for 2 fucking years.
Exactly.
The Russia per se probe, we're going to have his report, but we have
the per se probe,
a ongoing investigation that supersedes his Russia probe. And incidentally,
there it is, right there. I was saying 6 months ago on this show, the point of the investigation is not to find truth, it's not to find facts, it's not to uncover some kind of corruption. The point of the investigations, ladies and gentlemen, is the investigations. The point of the investigation is the investigation. That's why we call this Investigation Gate. Rolling into 2020, these people want as many investigations happening into the president as possible. Whether it's Robert Mueller or the Southern District of New York, they don't care. If you've got a briefcase and a potentially frivolous lawsuit to throw, somebody is waiting to catch it.
I know there's a lot of short shrift being given, including I've heard tonight about no expectations on his report.
Look how we're shifting.
I would not be surprised, and this is speculation.
Look how we shift.
That he does a roadmap. That he stacks fact upon fact upon fact upon fact.
Is he allowed to?
Yes, of course he is. Without pejorative. Nothing pejorative whatsoever.
Nothing
pejorative. Simply a recitation of facts, such as Jaworski, the special prosecutor, did in Watergate.
There's your Watergate reference, James. It's just like Watergate. You knew it was coming, didn't you? This is like the Rolling Stones' last ever world tour for the 50th time. You know what I mean?
I know that's going to happen, but I would not be the least bit surprised.
Here we go.
What we see is a mosaic now. We have a mosaic of investigations.
A mosaic, not of facts, James. A mosaic of investigations.
We have the Southern District. We also have the Democrats investigating in Congress. So it's a totally different situation than we've had for the previous 2 years.
When you say it is an cover-up unraveling, play to the skeptic who says, I don't see it. I don't see what's so bad.
It's not about being so bad, and we'll find out what parts of it may be criminal and may not be criminal, and who the criminal.
See, that's not the way it works. That's not the way it works, Carl. See, usually when an investigation happens, it's because they already have some evidence of some kind of criminal undertaking, correct? And you investigate it to find out where it started and who was involved. You don't say, well, we don't know if there's any criminal activity, so let's just investigate everyone until we find something. Right?
It's ridiculous. It's so un-American. Chris, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I don't know, James. I'm just flabbergasted with Bernstein. You know, he's like their poster boy for bringing out the Nixon era. I'm like Boogie. It was sort of funny that he would even, in the crime. What crime are we talking about here? Look, I'll say this about
getting
one
elected.
meeting I had at CPAC.
He got elected. That was his crime. He got elected. That was the crime.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I had a meeting last night with my buddy Brad Johnson, CIA guy that's been on my show before. We got to meet him in person last night on my way home from D.C. He's a great guy, and Brad knows the intelligence agencies inside and out. Even though he's retired, he knows what's going on in D.C. and I have a lot of faith what he tells me, and they know. These people in D.C. know this is nothing but bullshit. I'll use a term the president used yesterday, so I'm just repeating what he said. When he said the Mueller probe is bullshit, they know this in Washington. The intelligence agencies know it. The media knows it. The Democrats know it. But they haul these jackasses like this guy out every day, on every night, and continue the narrative because until that report comes out, that's what they want to get in the mind of the people that there was a crime. And there has been no crime. And James is 100% right. I mean, here he is acting like President Trump's under indictment for colluding with the Russians. I mean, and that's, again, the frustrating thing in nature of what's going on in the press and what's going on with these people. But it is CNN, right? And, God, I'm going to have to go have therapy after this show. All y'all playing all these left-wing clips. I swear to God.
It gets better. I've got more for you. You know, if you thought
I got to
that
tell you
was
something funny. I have to tell you one quick funny story about CPAC yesterday. I was live streaming, and they were playing an interview with Matt Schlapp and Cuomo, and I was getting slammed in my chat room thinking that I was the one playing it. I had to tell people like 6 times, guys, this is a live feed. They're doing this at CPAC. Chris ain't playing this. They're doing it at CPAC. So I'm just saying this is a recorded show tonight, folks. We're live, but Boogie's playing this one for real tonight. This is the interview he's playing for real. So,
well, remember, this all started out as one investigation into potential Russian collusion in the 2016 election. Look at what Carl Bernstein is making it.
Are and who the criminals are not. As John Dean was saying, there may be more indictments. We don't know. But what is unraveling are these various strands that are all intertwined.
Speaking nonsense.
Including Trump's businesses.
Yeah. Here we go.
You can't look at Russia and his susceptibility, for instance, to possible blackmail without looking at his business aspirations in Russia.
He's even laughing when he's saying it. So now we need to investigate and look at this. Gets better.
Looking at all of his dealings with ethno-Russians over the years.
Everybody who's an ethno-Russians over the years. We need to go through the entirety of Donald Trump's business life for the last 40 years in case there was something to do somewhere with some ethno-Russian at some point, which may indicate he was susceptible to blackmail. There are new normals being constructed left and right.
Hang on, isn't Carl Bernstein a lefty, and aren't they the big proponents of xenophobia? No, you can't be xenophobic. So how in the hell can you on national television say that any ethno-Russian is a problem? Do we want internment camps again? Do we need to put all the Japanese back behind some fucking fences in the desert? I mean, what the fuck are the left doing? This is ethno-Russians. I'm sorry. When are they coming after the ethno-Asians? Because fuck, I'm scared to death right now. Look,
James.
These motherfuckers like him, exactly like him, are the problem in this country. This is complete abuse of power, 100%, and the American people know it, and we're not going to take it. The truth is, the Mueller probe is over. This is why you see these stupid idiots like this being drug out of the woodwork, because they already know what's in the Mueller report, and it's a big, fat fucking goose egg. So now they're trying to fucking spread tentacles into every other possible thing so that they can keep these bullshit investigations going, because Mueller is already done.
Speaking of keeping the investigations going, here's Act 2.
Next now, new moves to investigate President Trump. House Democrats set to request more than 60 new documents tomorrow from people and organizations in the president's inner circle. The Democrats saying the public has the right to know. And tonight, the new poll tracking how the president is doing with the American people.
Here we go.
Here's ABC White House correspondent Tara Palmieri.
The big play.
Tonight, House Democrats preparing to launch a sweeping investigation deep into the president and his inner circle.
Tomorrow, we will be issuing document requests to over 60 different people and individuals from the White House to begin the investigations to present the case to American people about obstruction of justice, corruption, and abuse of power.
So we are bringing, do you see again, these people can't help themselves but let slip what they're really doing. See, he didn't say we're bringing forward 60 subpoenas of information of different people to try to uncover the truth. He said to present the case to the American people that there is corruption, that there was obstruction of justice. That's called putting the cart before the horse, right? And they are shamelessly hiding in plain sight.
Jerry Nadler, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee that would lead impeachment hearings, included Donald Trump Jr. and Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg among those who will be contacted tomorrow.
I know a lot of people don't like watching this stuff, but you have to see that what these people are very good at is getting all of the little different players to play their role. They're all playing their role. You can't win the Super Bowl with a team full of quarterbacks, right? You need every other position filled. Let's look here. Look now, here's another case of somebody else playing their little 5% role in what the Democrats are constructing here, which is going to be one last big push.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez delivered a brilliant line of questioning at the Michael Cohen hearing on Wednesday that opened up new areas of investigation for the committee with...
He just said occasional cortex.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Brilliant line of questioning. Like, where was the snack bar? Like, where are the trains? How do I pay for my apartment? What brilliant line of questioning did this fucking moron come up with?
Well, we'll show you. Let's see. Let's see for ourselves.
New witnesses. She picked up on a point Michael Cohen made earlier that the National Enquirer has a treasure trove of documents about stories that it killed for Donald Trump.
Remember what the big play is. We're going to go to the National Enquirer. I just can't wait. I can't wait, James, for Jerry Nadler and the Democrats to be sitting there going, okay, National Enquirer editor, is it true that Melania Trump was artificially inseminated by a UFO penis? Is that true?
Is Elvis alive in the basement of the National Enquirer?
Exactly.
You also mentioned that the president was very concerned about the whereabouts of these documents and who possessed them. Does that treasure trove of documents still exist?
I don't know. I had asked David Pecker for them.
So you would say the person who knows the whereabouts of these documents would be David Pecker?
David Pecker, Barry Levine, or Dylan Howard.
So,
look at the
David
smile.
Pecker,
Look
Barry
at the smile.
Levine, and Dylan Howard, your subpoenas are probably on the way. And then Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez asked the first question in what is sure to be an investigation of insurance fraud by Donald Trump.
To your knowledge, did the president ever provide inflated assets to an insurance company?
Yes.
Who else knows that the president did this?
Alan Weisselberg, Ron Lieberman, and Matthew Calamari.
And where would the committee find more information on this? Do you think we need to review his financial statements and his tax returns in order to compare them?
Yes, and you'd find it at the Trump org.
So Alan Weisselberg, Ron Lieberman, and Matthew Calamari all better start getting ready for the committee's questions for them on insurance fraud.
Where's the collusion again, right? There's no collusion. It's obstruction of justice. It's insurance fraud. I just wanted to finish off with one thing. We've often talked about the need for people to attack Donald Trump in better ways. I thought this was particularly clever. Not necessarily by Ocasio-Cortez, but perhaps they might have found one. Finally, they might have done, a good attack job on Donald Trump for something, I think.
Trump's pocket.
Credit where it's due.
The Trump Golf Organization currently has a golf course in my home borough of the Bronx, Trump Links. I drive past it every day, going between the Bronx and Queens.
That was the most perfect illustration of House Speaker Tip O'Neill's old line that all politics is local, and it turned out to be the perfect illustration of just how much Donald Trump loves socialism when it's just for him.
Taxpayers spent $127 million to build Trump Links in a, quote, generous deal, allowing President Trump to keep almost every dollar that flows in.
Now, see, to be fair, that's not bad. That's not a bad one. Trump got $127 million from taxpayers to build a golf course. Because I'm somebody over here, I'm so free market that my Polish friend, Adam, the voice of reason, Adam J, says that I'm smacking Milton Friedman on the arse. That's how far to the right I am when it comes to economics. But I'm not somebody that likes taxpayer funds being used to build things like stadiums and golf courses and stuff like that. So I thought, wow, actually, tip of the hat, not bad. Not bad. But we'd have to see the figures. I guess we're going to have to get Donald Trump's tax returns. I guess we're going to have to get his financial statements just to make sure how much money he got from the American people. I've got one more clip for you, James, one very short clip, just to tie in this mosaic of investigations, and then we'll let Chris go to sleep because he looks like he's about to drop right off the perch there.
And then there is all of this from Chris Christie, who, along with being a former Republican governor, is also a former federal prosecutor. And so Christie tells Chris Cuomo he is certain that the SDNY, the Southern District of New York, is building a case to indict Trump once he leaves office. Listen to this.
What they're doing, I'm confident, is building a case for two things. One, to go after those around the president who may have committed crimes.
See, may have committed crimes, putting the cart before the horse, but we've already gone over that. They're going to subpoena 60 people, tomorrow or in the next couple of days. Let's have a look.
And two, to build a case if they have one. I don't think they have one at the moment, but if they're trying to build one against the president for when he leaves office.
Against the president for when he leaves office. So, again, can you see what the 2020 campaign strategy is going to be? Donald Trump can't be trusted by the American people, ladies and gentlemen. He's under investigation so much. And if you, my good comrades, want to see this orange beast indicted, then vote for the Democrat, because the very next day we will march Donald Trump into the law offices of the Southern District Law Center, the Southern District of New York. We'll put him in cuffs and we'll throw him in jail where he belongs. And because why? Because we are the patriots. We are the American patriots trying to protect the government from this Putin's cockholster bastard. There you go. There's your hammering.
Stop the hammer.
Now, James, you need to walk people off the cliff after that. Tell them why all of this is going to fail.
Fucking fat ass Chris Christie. There's a reason why he was fired the day after they left Trump Tower, and right after Admiral Mike Rogers told them, hey, you guys are being spied on, and here's what they found. Believe it or not, that's why all those people were fired, because he had the document saying this is what Chris Christie said, this is what he was doing. These people are insane. They're trying to create a problem, and this actually helps us, I think, in the long run, because what do the American people not want? They do not want Donald Trump taken away from them. So that being said, when you say, oh, we're going to indict him if he loses, that'll double down everybody's effort to make sure he doesn't fucking lose. So I'm not stressed by this stuff. It's all going to come out. Donald Trump is going to release FISA. Donald Trump is going to bring out the records. Donald Trump has all of the tools. Believe it or not, this is what the people don't understand. All their bullshit lying rhetoric about obstruction of justice, he is justice. I don't care what you guys think about that. I don't care how you think about it. You can look at the Constitution. The executive branch executes the justice for this country. He cannot obstruct himself. It is up to him. There is no independence. There is not. In the Constitution, it lays it out cut and dry. So all these people are going to fry by their own hand. I love it. Thanks, Chris Mack, for being here. We really, really, really appreciate it. Even though you tried to fall asleep about half a dozen times on the episode. It's going to be hilarious when people are like, holy shit, Chris, look at him. He's going to fall asleep. He can't stand these CNN fuckers.
No. Chris drove home 10 hours from D.C. last night, and I still can't stand him. Hey, James, let me interject one quick thing before we leave tonight, what you just said. It's amazing, and you got to follow this trail, folks, what they're doing. Don't let them do this. Don't let them, these sons of bitches, do this. The Mueller report is going to be shit for the Democrats. I'm telling you, they know it. They know it's going to be a bomb that's going to go up in their face. And when Bernstein and both Christie and Bernstein started talking about the people around Trump and the business dealings, that's what they're targeting now, because they know that they failed to get him out. And look, guys, think about this. We're 2 damn years, going on year 3 into his presidency, and they're still trying to delegitimize a duly elected president of the United States. If they're going to do this at a time they don't have power, folks, you better be damn scared of what they will do if they ever take full power. If they're this reckless and this uncaring about our laws and Constitution now, what will they do to us and other people and the American public if they ever get power? That should scare the hell out of everybody on this world stage tonight. Everybody.
Amen. Final words, Book?
Yeah. The Mueller report might be rubbish, but the point that we make here on this show is it doesn't matter. You know, like the truth is the truth is utterly irrelevant to these people, and it's all about how they're going to position themselves. And you know, once you see it, you can't unsee it. One of the slogans we use on this show a lot. Now you see the play. Now you see the false reality that is going to be constructed about your friends and family. Now it's up to you to sharpen your polemical sword and tear it to shreds for your friends and family. Save them. Save them from the horrors of an unreality which ends in police state tyranny. Do your duty.
No.
Amen. Thanks for being here, everybody. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at RealPerson, PLTCS. If you want to follow him, you can follow him at Boogie Bumper. If you want to follow us, you can follow us at TAV Show. And if you want to follow our special guest, Chris Mack, he is at Chris MC44. You should follow that. Otherwise, you're going to miss Pirate Radio next Friday night. Aloha, everybody. Have a great night.